All right, we're back. It's race week here in the Circle City of Indianapolis as IndyCar invades the road course inside of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the IndyCar Grand Prix coming up on Saturday afternoon on NBC just after 3 o'clock. The green flag will fly. Welcome into another edition of the IndyCar Show. I'm Tony Donahue. That's Luke Edwards. Luke, I know you're jacked about what's coming up this weekend.
Oh man, we were cruising around in some old pace cars today, going around the grounds. All the teams are loading in. You know, the city just kind of gets this buzz back this time of year. It's May in Indy. Can't beat it. Where else would you be?
Yeah, it's kind of the same here. I was cruising around a little bit and was just checking some things out as they were loading in the transporters and such into the track today, and a lot of drivers getting their buses in. We saw Connor Daly putting up a hot tub inside the grounds there. Some other drivers loading in as well. Got to go down to Mass Ave earlier to see Takuma Sato. A lot of fans were there. So the Speedway, IndyCar, the city, like you said, really coming alive and allowing a lot of the fans to be a part of the activities as well. But we have the 9th running of the IndyCar Grand Prix from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course coming up on Saturday. First, Luke, let me throw you a curveball here before we talk about the race and excitement level. With 2 races, we know the one coming up in the summer is not going to happen. Would you like to see this race on the road course ran on the old Formula One configuration?
Oh, without a doubt. I could get by maybe with skipping the carousel corner, but
Okay.
I would love to see these guys do the oval turn one backwards. I've heard different concerns about it being maybe brake capabilities of having that extra whatever mile an hour would be at the end of this long straightaway into the road course turn one, that heavy braking zone that's already really heavy. But why not? Let's try it. Let's push these cars. And I think that would just be so exciting.
Yeah, and I think, if you're going to have 2 races here, why not maybe spice it up somehow coming up with this race in May? As we know, look, I love the road course race. I know a lot of traditionalists still haven't got over the fact that there was another race in May. But it'll be really cool, and we'll talk about this a little bit because I was in the paddock a little bit earlier today with some of the Mazda Road to Indy guys. You get to see a lot of the future stars with Indy Lights races, multiple races. USF 2000 has 3 races. Pro 2000 has races. So I certainly love it. It's great. There's so many cool sight lines to watch this race from. Luke, I know that you like to walk around in the infield as well. The deck in turn one is kind of nice of the oval to see some things. But what I always say is if you don't buy a grandstand ticket, grab that general admission and walk through the mounds of the infield. Go to the north end of the track. I'll be in the Miller Lite party deck, so I'll get to see that right in front of us. Walk down the Holman straightaway, go over the bridge, kind of on the mounds there on the golf course area. So do you have any places that you like to watch the road course action from inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. I have a few stand tickets, but real quick before I give my picks for the stands, the Miller Lite party deck, I'd like to know more about that because I've always thought that would be a great place. Do you have to have special passes for that or pre-order tickets, or you got to be on a list? How does that work?
So they only give them out to beer vendors or bars, and then a lot of the radio stations and such will give them out as well. And it's super cool because it's a building out there between the short chute and 3 and 4. So the road courses, they come right down in front of you, and then you get to see them as they head down the Hallman straightaway there. So you get a few Miller Lights, like I know you're having right now, and some pizza, and it's kind of a party atmosphere out there. So that's usually where I watch the Grand Prix from. Did last year, so can't wait for that coming up. So we're gonna have to get you out there one of these days. I think I could probably pull enough strings to get you to check it out. So we'll definitely get out there. So I don't like to watch the oval from out there just because I feel like I miss too much. And during the 500, I'm pretty much married to sitting in turn 3 like I do. But the road course there, where you have a big screen, if you need it, you can kind of move around and see some things. It's a hell of a time for sure.
I'm really partial to Stand J, that hard braking zone right there. We've been kind of parking there. I've seen it from Oval Turn 1. I think Penthouse B is probably my second choice. Penthouse B is just great because you get this perspective where you get to look down into the cars as they're rounding the
Yeah.
final corner onto the straight of the road course, and they get some opposite lock coming up through there, transitioning from a flatter area of the track onto the banking a little bit. But staying J just seems like stand wise, you can see everything. You got a video board right across from you, and it's just real
Mhm.
packed. And I love that feeling of just everybody's there, everybody's all buzzing and excited because that's where you have the dive bomb passes. That's where you have
Yeah.
every restart they fan out 4 or 5 wide sometimes, and we've seen a few catastrophes and big moments there over the last 9 years.
Yeah, let's get to some of the keys of this race and let's just go straight from there. I mean, we've seen guys like Connor Daly and Simon Pagenaud have trouble going into turn one. Sebastian Bourdais comes to mind a few years ago, I want to say 16 or 17, where he got smashed into the wall. I think it was by Tony Kanaan, kind of ended his day. So, Luke, I think key number one is just getting through that first turn. I mean, qualifying is very key here because it seems like the winner starts in those first 3 or 4 rows. But you got to get through that first hard break zone, quick right-hander, quick left-hander, because we're going to see it, Luke. Somebody's going to go off. There's going to be contact, and somebody's going to go to the grass, and it's almost more than likely going to kill your day.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Connor qualify in a top 6 spot in his GMR or sorry, the Indy GP last year, the first of the 2 races. And his day was over before he even made it to the second corner.
Mm-hmm.
Just parked it 25th spot. That's it. You're done. So all that work, all that, the whole weekend, the qualifying, everything, the momentum that he had going into it. We even saw Pato, he got kicked out, and this is an interesting part of the track too. It's almost better if you get kicked out and stay on the oval and take that little express lane that
Yeah.
dives in between
Yep.
the walls, and you can funnel back in because you can kind of keep some speed going. Sometimes these cars get into the grass or the gravel pits, it's just day over. Or we've seen somebody got their gearbox ran into a few years ago too, and it took them out, broke a half shaft, and they were up front. So yeah, it's just one of those things where the people that come out well from taking the risk, you could gain 4 or 5 spots easy, or you could go from 6th to 25th like we saw Daly do. So I think that's the key is, you know, who is on pole? How are they going to start the race? What is race control going to deem an acceptable start? I think last year we saw Grosjean, he accelerated early. It was just that kind of, 5th to 10th danger zone that we always talk about on road courses that is like, man, I've got everything to lose and I've got a lot to gain right here. That's usually where the trouble strikes.
Rinus VeeKay is your defending winner of this race. He had the car to beat in Barber a few weeks ago and was indeed beat by Pato Award. And Alex Palou finished second. Some of the pit stops just didn't cycle Rinus's way, but he comes into the defending winner. Some confidence. We're gonna be flying with him on Saturday. The Burnout Sports logo will be on his car, so we're looking forward to that. What does Rinus have to do this weekend, Luke, to defend that title and go back to victory lane? Because all of a sudden, and I don't want to say it's not been happening, but it's becoming louder and louder that this might be his last year with Ed Carpenter Racing. We'll get into that at a later date. But what does Rinus have to do to defend that title and get back to the top step of the podium at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
Well, I think he's just got to be consistent, throughout the race. We've seen most of our championship leaders practice kind of just a pattern style race. They know what they're going to do. If anything pops up, yellows, if there's all green, long stints. I know you've talked about this race has really long green flag stints.
Mm-hmm.
And the yellow usually is at a very inopportune moment when somebody's either trying to get the last out of their tires, or it's right at the beginning of the stint when somebody's on reds trying to get the most out of their tires and being overly aggressive. So it usually tends to be right in those pit cycles, which can really throw guys off. So I think it's going to be a big team effort of just let's make sure we have strategies and contingent strategies. Renus has the speed here, and I think he's going to carry that confidence from last year. I guarantee he's going to be running in the top 5. Let the other guys make a couple mistakes and just focus on your strategy, because you usually have a little bit of space once everything spreads out when you're in the top 5.
Before we talk about willpower, which we absolutely have to when it comes to this racetrack, something that has
Oh
kind of
yeah.
started to develop here over the last several hours, more than anything, as we're about halfway through the week here and we record the IndyCar show for you. And again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, subscribing, and liking to our social media channels. Luke, we might see some weather. It's going to be super hot. It's been super hot all week. But there looks like there could be some storms rolling in somewhere in that Saturday afternoon range, and that could really throw a monkey wrench into this thing because they're still going to run unless it's lightning and there's a thunderstorm, or it's not a torrential downpour. But I think we've seen it once. Remember Simon Pagenaud in 2019 just charged to the front and cut an 8-second deficit down to pass, I believe, Will Power and Scott Dixon for the lead, and then again for the win. Part of me is like, hey, I kind of like chaos. I kind of like the fun of seeing some rain possibly in the forecast coming up Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I always find myself whenever I think last year they're like, well, they're sensing
Yep.
some precipitation somewhere around the track, and we heard that over the PA, and everyone just is like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Why not throw some rain in the mix, make everybody's day just turn upside down?
Yep.
I'd love to see that from a racing perspective because the best race I've ever seen on that road course was what you just referenced, Simon Pagenaud in 2019. Just
Hmm.
coming from an impossible gap. You don't
Yeah.
make up 8-9 seconds in less than 10 laps. It's just not something that you really do. So I think that would give some guys like Grosjean, people that have more rain experience, maybe even some of the young guns like Lundgaard. Um,
Yep.
it'll give them a more even playing field. And if you think back to the legendary Senna, that's how he made his name was was rain races when he was running that candy car. I forget. I think it was the Tolman entry,
Yep.
and he just destroyed the field out of nowhere, very similar to that Pagenaud run. So I'm all for it, but from a fun standpoint, me and a bunch of people are all wearing matching Hawaiian shirts, and we're trying to keep that vibe going. So I hope it doesn't get too cold. Maybe we can get one of those classic Indiana like rain and sun at the same time deals and see what happens there.
There was a guy in the Miller Lite Party Deck with us last year in the summer for the summer road course race, and he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt that had a bunch of pictures of Elio Castro Neves' face. So you're gonna have to duplicate that with a driver. Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of drivers when they come into this race for the first time, and the sweeping turns and the fast straightaways. It reminds them of a lot of tracks that they grew up and cut their teeth in Europe. So as we talk about the competition level and the gap between first and let's say 20th on the grid, I think that closes this weekend. It makes the competition that much more intense because this is a track that, yes, Longard has raced on it before, and so has Kalamilot last year. But some of these guys that are coming here for the first time that have a little bit of a European background, a European style. Some guys have raced Indy Lights here, so there's a lot of experience and a lot of adapting that is going to happen quickly. So I think it's going to be a very competitive field coming up on Saturday afternoon again on NBC. We'll have you covered all weekend here. Burnout Sports, burnoutsports.com. My Twitter, Luke's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, everything, Instagram. Be sure to check it out. All right, as I mentioned, you can't talk about this race without talking about the dominance of Will Power. He has been absolutely on a tear at this track. He is always up front. And so far, Luke, we've been knocking on the door with Will Power to win a race this year. Do you think it comes up on Saturday in a place that he has been absolutely dominating at? And he's been very consistent so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't somebody that I was necessarily really looking at because he has been so consistent. In a weird
Mhm.
way, he's dominating under the radar. Um, 5 out of 11 races on this track, he's won. That's
Mhm.
just outstanding. In the first 6 races, only 2 drivers won, and it was 3 apiece between Simon Pagenaud and Will Power.
Mhm.
I don't think that he's going to be out of the mix, short of some bad luck happening. But between one, the Penske cars dominating everything this year up until this last race, and two, Chevrolets continuing their domination with McLaren, Chevy winning the last race with Pato Award. I think he's going to be up there. But
Mhm.
like you said, the competition is so tight. There's no room, zero room for mediocrity and to be in the championship hunt this year. So if if the momentum is on your side, then I've seen it affect more of the sport in the last, 2021 and the beginning of this season. It kind of reminds me of college football almost. When
Yeah.
a team and a crew and a driver has momentum, it's going to stay there, and he hasn't lost it. We saw Scott McLaughlin. He kind of had a bunch of momentum at the beginning, and then it faded a little bit, and that pendulum kind of swung the other way slightly. We've seen New Garden stay up there, we've seen Will Power stay up there, and now we see a resurgence of Pato Award.
Yeah.
Pato is the defending winner coming into this week from the last race in Birmingham. That means somebody else has got to go. Is that Will Power? I'm gonna guess not. Not unless some tragedy befalls him.
Yeah, and I think Pato Award had a pole here last year, if not mistaken, on the road course at the Speedway, or maybe it was 2 years ago. But I'm pretty sure at least a front row start, if not mistaken. So again, Arrow McLaren. Here's my thoughts on this, and Luke, I would love yours as well. Pato's going to be there. Pato's a championship contender. He proved that last year. He proved that he can run up front on ovals and road courses. Win at Texas last year. Top 5 finish in the Indy 500 last year. But it's very similar to what we see with Ed Carpenter Racing, and kind of what we see with Andretti is you've got one driver locked in and contending and right there leading laps, podium finishes, and then you got a second driver that just it's just not happening. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It puts a lot of pressure on guys like Connor Daly and Felix Rosenquist to perform when their teammate is. But is this something, Luke, that just like when I rack my brain around it, I almost just don't understand, because I think Felix has a lot of talent. He has a pole here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Connor Daly has led laps here in a Dale Coyne car, I believe in either 15 or 16 in the road course race. It's just almost mind-boggling. Luke, do you feel the same way that you've got some of these teams that have, a championship contender, and then their second driver is like out on the outside of the top 15 in points? So it's hard for me to rack my brain around that.
Yeah, and from what I've heard from the drivers and some of the teams and engineers, is it's almost a little bit Formula One-esque in that aspect of they kind of pick a driver, and all the R&D and development goes into making the car comfortable for him. And
Mhm.
when you see a lot of teams have guys kind of up front, well, they have similar driving styles more often than not. So, one thing, reading some of the quotes this week and some of the news flying around with Daly, for instance, is VK and Daly don't really run a car the same. They don't feel a car out the same way, and that's been one of his struggles. So if the lead driver, who either finds himself being the lead driver by results at the beginning of a season, which we're past the beginning, he is the lead driver, is going to kind of get that extra time and effort. The second driver either has to learn how to drive that style of car, or they're going to struggle. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. We see a lot of similarities with, I'd say, Jack Harvey, who needs a result over at Rahal, who's getting outpaced by the rookie Lundgaard and Graham Rahal. Yeah, it's one of those things where Connor knows this track though. He's good at this track. He's shown speed. He's had some terrible luck. He got 11th place in the second race here last year, so he's able to contend. But this is for me, he stands out. This is a big make or break. It's your hometown. You led the 500 last year. You've got a lot of eyes on you. You qualified in the Fast Six in the first race last year. You almost got a top 10 in the second race last year. This is your best opportunity to turn it around outside of the 500.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Daly and Rosenquist. Other drivers looking for their first top 5 of the season includes Alexander Rossi, Simon Pagenaud, Elio Castroneves. You mentioned Jack Harvey, Takuma Sato. I don't think we've had a rookie finish inside of the top 5 yet. So there's a lot of drivers, and I'm going to write about this on burnoutsports.com. You'll see it. That, for lack of a better term, need to go slump busting on Saturday and get a good result and gain that momentum. Because after Saturday evening, your sole focus is the Indy 500. for a lot of these drivers, because you're almost 90%. I mean, literally, I think 90% of the drivers would probably be out of the points championship by the end of the month of May, with double points and qualifying and such for the Indy 500. So excited for this weekend, as you mentioned, Luke. I can't wait to be out there. There's going to be a lot of fun to be had. Maybe a little sprinkle or two Saturday afternoon wouldn't hurt anybody. So absolutely can't wait for the race coming up on NBC. IndyCar continuing to build momentum, maybe a little bit of momentum gain from Formula One in Miami over the weekend. A lot of drivers are there. I've heard a lot of Formula One drivers could be in town coming up this weekend to check out IndyCar. So absolutely looking forward to that. All right, give us some rookies to watch coming up on Saturday for the race, Luke, and go ahead and give me your race winner, the guy you think that's going to be on top of that podium come Saturday afternoon.
All right, let's go. So, can we count Lundgaard as a rookie? I mean, he is a rookie in the
Yeah, I
IndyCar
mean,
field.
yeah, we're gonna call him a rookie in the IndyCar field because I think he still is battling for the rookie championship.
I'm gonna say, if it's not Lundgaard, who's my number one pick, just simply by the fact that technically at this track he's not a rookie, he's got experience. I'm gonna go out on a
Mhm.
limb and say, watch out for Juncos Racing and Callum. I
Yep.
think that
Yep.
he could have like you said, with these young guys, it's a smooth track. It's not the rough and tumble street courses. It's not the elevation changes like we've seen. So it's straightforward. It's the type of thing you've been racing on since you were in go-karts. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is an opportunity for him to really show his stuff. I'm gonna say a dark horse is
All right.
kind of a weird thing. Harvey's always had speed in the 60 car, right?
Yeah.
And now Pagano's in the 60 car, who has 3 wins at this joint. So I'm sorry, 4. I'm gonna
Yep.
go with Pagano as my dark horse. And
Okay.
I'm going to say the race winner is going to be Alex Palou, the championship
Mhm.
leader. He is Mr. Consistent. He's been knocking at the door. The last 2 races, he's qualified third, and he
Yep.
hasn't finished below that. He's only improved. He finished third and then second more recently in Birmingham. He had speed last year. He fell out of the second race with I believe, a blown motor or a blown turbo. Engine went
Yeah.
kaput. No more go. Um, that's my pick to win for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Milot is a guy that has kind of gained some momentum, and maybe I'll take his mini cardboard cutout that I got at Rev out there. We're gonna have him autograph it and give it to a fan at some point next week. But he's also tested there. He tested there back in September, I believe. So yeah, rookie guards. I'm gonna go with Lundgaard as your top finishing rookie. I think Kirkwood could be right there as well, but Lundgaard was faster last year. If I'm not mistaken, he was qualified inside the top 12 and was fourth in one of the practice sessions. So he certainly has speed
Yeah.
in that car. I think that 30 car will be there. My dark horse, you know, is Rinus VeeKay a dark horse in this? I don't think so, just because he won last year. Maybe the odds would tell you so. But I'm going to go with Graham Rahal. Graham's been very consistent here. Multiple top 8 finishes. So I guess Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan should have a good day if you're going by my predictions. And I want to go with Palou to win, but since you did, I'm going to go with the guy who we really haven't spent a lot of time on, which is kind of funny to think about. And I'm going to go with Scott Dixon. This is the guy that you watch on Saturday. All of a sudden, it's going to either become a fuel mileage race or something's going to happen. And all of a sudden, there's Dixon running third. All of a sudden, there's Dixon making a pass for second. Oh, we got to stretch the field. Dixon takes the lead with 3 laps to go and sails to a victory. So he does have a road course win there. I believe that was in the summer of 2020 during COVID when no fans were there. So I'm going to go with Scott Dixon. A couple things. I know I kind of mentioned it to all the fans that are going. Move around, check out different scenery inside the track, which makes the road course great. And support support the road to Indy. Support Indy Lights, Christian Rasmussen, Matty Brabhams. These are guys that you could see at IndyCar back one day. USF 2000, Pro 2000. Miles Rose, a guy who's somebody you can get behind as well. So be sure to check out some of those drivers and support the ladder series as well, because those races are always hella entertaining. All right, Luke, you and I had some fun on Saturday night at Rev at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I was looking pretty dapper. You were looking dapper. We were all looking great. Jay Benzal, locally owned and operated here in Indianapolis. They're a private men's boutique that specializes in every aspect of a man's signature wardrobe. They're located in downtown Indy in the Fashion Mall. They had me looking good. I didn't look like I just stole a suit off some guy downtown. So that was good. We got to talk to Maddie Brabham, Graham Rahal. Our Jared Sparkman interviewed Ed Carpenter. Just a great night. And Luke, always super cool to kind of see the drivers in a more laid back atmosphere.
Yeah, we saw Slick Willie P behind the drums, which I've only seen
Yep.
on Instagram in the off season. So he was out there in
Mhm.
front of the crowd, getting it, didn't miss a beat. And like you said, man, I'm gonna have to go get a suit from there because I didn't even
Mhm.
know where you got it from. I just remember we finally met on the main straightaway on the Yard of Bricks, and I pulled a little up down, damn, you know. So no, looking fresh for sure, but yeah, it was great to see Manny Brabs. Talk to him for a little bit out there, and saw that you guys caught up with him. Great event. It's the perfect
Mhm.
thing to start off the month of May. Hit it with a bang, a big party. You know, you've got the DJ up in the crow's nest, you've got drivers
Yep.
hanging out, you've got a laser light show, and you have your dance floor, which is literally the start finish line on the track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's been one of my favorite things to kind of signify the beginning of the month.
Yeah, plenty of awesome food and drink. Obviously, all the benefits go to IU Health, which not only keeps all the drivers and teams safe, but if you have an emergency as a fan at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they have an operating hospital basically inside of the speedway with nurses and doctors that can help you. Usually, it's people getting a little too wasted and dehydrated. But again, a big thanks to Carol and everybody who put on Rev. It's always a fun event. It's always cool to see the outfits, check out the bands, check out, like you said, the DJ dance on the bricks, and try a lot of locally suggested food here. So really enjoyed that as well. All right, we also had this last week. I believe it came out on Monday. Sorry, no, it came out last Wednesday. We had interviewed Steph Wilson for burnoutsports.com on Monday and then aired it as soon as the news came. We are at 33. We knew we would get here, right, Luke? Like, it's not like we weren't going to.
No
There's a
doubt.
lot of different rumors and options that could have happened. We finally get there with Steph Wilson, Cusick Motorsports, AJ Foyt Racing is going to provide the car. Dragon Speed is going to help out. Hopefully, this leads to full-time competition in a few years. But really happy to see a great guy in Steph Wilson back in the cockpit for this year's 106 Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, I've actually got one of his Indy Lights tubs sitting here behind me,
Uh-oh. Yeah.
which I've taken with me to. It's an old Brian Herta Autosport tub, so someday I'll try to get him to sign it. Maybe after he's done with this very busy month ahead of him. But yeah, it was just great to see him back. You know, he's always shown consistency at the track.
Mhm.
I need to look up his lab completion percentage because it's got to be up there, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a brand new look. You know, it's a newer partnership. Cusick has a minor amount of experience in ownership and fielding cars. Dragon has a little bit more. So to see them pair up is it's just a great opportunity. And Steph Wilson, you know, he's come agonizingly close on fuel mileage to winning the race before, and we know Rossi did that in 16 and became one of the most premier drivers of the sport. So I think he knows his way around this event more than people might think. He's
Mhm.
definitely what I would consider a veteran of the 500, and it's just great to see somebody who's not always had a great shot with a full time ride and consistent sponsors to make this splash and be this kind of savior that came in and said, "Don't
Yep.
worry, I'm your 33rd guy. The tradition lives on." We won't have bumping this year, but I think this is a great way to just salvage that 33 and salvage that tradition.
Yeah, and so my takeaways from talking to Steph is one, a lot of fans just don't realize how hard it is to put everything together, to get the crew, to get the chassis, the engine, the sponsors, the right fit, the right driver. And to be able to get it all together here is great for Steph Wilson, who is a great guy, a really good driver. I think this hopefully starts a really good relationship between Cusick Motorsports, who seems to have the funding to go full-time racing, and Dragon Speed Racing, who has talked many times about getting back into the 500. Remember, Ben Hanley was in it, I believe, the COVID year in 2020, and he had some speed. He was making some moves throughout the pack. So we know Steph Wilson knows how to go fast. Like he said, last year, he's like, I hopped in the car. I hadn't been in it in a couple years. So getting him back out there, I'm really interested to see, and yeah, you could call this whatever you want, a technical alliance partnership with AJ Foyt Racing, but can Foyt take a step, right? Foyt seems to be the team that is getting better slowly and surely on the road and street courses. And we saw Kyle Kirkwood making some daring moves at Texas that obviously ended up biting him. But can Foyt move up a little bit? Can they qualify better? I don't think they've had a top 20 qualifying effort in Indy 500 in the last 4 or 5 years, if not even longer. So I hope this helps Foyt take the next step with J.R. Hildebrand and Kyle Kirkwood and Dalton Kellett, who seems to be gaining a lot more experience and a lot more traction. What we thought may have happened but didn't was Peretta Autosport. They announced a partnership with Ed Carpenter Racing to run some road courses, so we'll see with that. And then also yesterday, Luke, we were out there. Sarah Fisher, your pace car driver for this year's Indianapolis 500. Your thoughts on the 9-time Indy 500 starter and the fastest woman in history set the pace to field coming up in a few weeks?
I think it's great. I mean, Sarah's always just been not only a great ambassador for the sport, but she's just so friendly to everybody. It's just such an inspiration to so many young women all around the world on this world stage of qualifying for the Indy 500, let alone, having some of the fastest cars in the modern era underneath her and handling that. And then from her business prowess side of putting rides together, like in 2008, pulling all the sponsorships together, just really owning her craft and owning her logistics side of things is just great. It's good to see somebody that's a local business owner as well. I think it's going to be a really fun time. And you know what? That was when I learned that she actually was on pace car duty. And it's kind of cool that this year it's like, oh, it's not just an honorary. This is the official pace car driver. They're pacing it at the beginning, before the race, and all the way through it too. So, no, Sarah's a great person.
Yeah, and I actually left there and went go-karting over at her place and saw the old 97 Tony Stewart car.
I
But
saw
yeah,
that.
I mean, it works. It works, right? Like Sarah knows what she's doing. It's a great female, or what's the proper term? Embracing females in the sport as they continue to grow, diversity wise. So, ambassador, that's the word I was looking for. So it's a great female ambassador for the sport, somebody who knows how to get it done. I've always thought that the pace car driver should be somebody with 500 ties racing wise, whether it's a former winner or, like a Sarah Fisher would be perfect. I know Danica did it a few years ago as well. So that'll be fun. Great for Sarah Fisher. I think you save the celebrity stuff for the green flag and maybe some other things, red carpet before the race, and we'll see who's the pace car driver coming up for the Grand Prix on Saturday afternoon. All right, Luke. Before we wrap up, we're not even to the Indianapolis 500, and the IndyCar silly season is alive and well. The biggest rumors have been Alexander Rossi to McLaren. Not been officially confirmed, but I have been told that that's going to happen. Others have been told that is going to happen as well. Rinus VeeKay could be on the move as well. I know Ed Carpenter Racing still has an option on him, but Chip Ganassi and McLaren, Meyer Shank have all checked in. Penske has as well for Rinus's services. Where does that move Felix Rosenquist with McLaren? Who moves into the number 21? Is it a guy like Callum Ilott? Does Ryan Hunter-Reay come over? Does Kyle Kirkwood go back to Andretti Autosport? There's so much of that meat in the sandwich there, Luke. I'm going to give you the floor on your opinion and maybe what you think is going to happen with all these silly season rumor mills that is already churning.
Well, we're going on year 3 now of of the graduation of stress in the Rossi camp of, well, what's happening? Is there trouble in paradise? Oh, there's
Mhm.
trouble in paradise. Well, he's stuck in trouble. So I'd
Yeah.
love to see him get an opportunity to mix it up. He's been with Andretti since he came into the league. I think sometimes these drivers just need a fresh start, a fresh
Yes.
perspective. And McLaren is obviously pouring money. They have the funding. And we have seen that second car kind of be a little bit lackadaisical. It kind of reminds me of how the 10 car was for a long time. There were so many questions of, after Dan left the 10 car, it was just, well, is it the driver? Is it the engineering? So yeah,
Yeah.
let's see what that second McLaren car can do. Let's get both McLaren guys up on the podium with Rossi. Rosenquist, we've seen him have speed with Ganassi. So it could possibly be a good thing for him too, even though McLaren seemed like a big break and a big marquee name. Maybe he just needs to slot in. Maybe he gets an opportunity with hopping into the 21 if VeeKay vacates that. That's hard. VeeKay vacates. But
Yeah.
yeah, the one that the most curious to me is Rinus VeeKay because, like you
Yeah.
said, everyone is interested. He's obviously got speed. He ran up front at Indy all day last year and won the GP. So the guy can race anywhere. What are your thoughts? What have you heard? What's looking the best for him?
Yeah, and I think it just depends. Does Penske want to go to a fourth car? He's had a lot of interest in Rinus VeeKay for a while now. So does Penske pull out that fourth car again that we saw be vacated when Simon Pagenaud left last year? Does Chip Ganassi make room? It seems like the bus is full and the Ganassi Racing stable, but does he pull out another car for Rinus VeeKay? It's going to be interesting. I think as of right now, from what I've been told at McLaren, is that they want Felix to stay, and they are willing to go to a third car to have Felix stay. So we'll see. There's a lot that goes on there, and we'll see. Ed Carpenter Racing, like we talked about, still has the option on Rinus. So how does that change things? How does that approach go? Is there somebody else that maybe comes from Formula One or who has been out of Formula One that has money? Does Ryan Hunter-Reay fit in this mix somewhere? Do we see do we see, and I hate to say this, but you kind of look up and down the paddock right now and it's like, is Jack Harvey back in that Hy-Vee car? Because the results certainly haven't been there. There's some other drivers throughout the field that you're going, maybe he doesn't come back. Maybe Kirkwood moves over to Andretti's car and, who moves on? So there's so much. I mean, we could sit here and discuss this for another 5 hours, Luke, I'm sure, but we've got a whole
Yep,
summer of silly
easy.
season to discuss. Can't wait for this weekend out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Thank you so much for listening, watching, subscribing. Gonna be fun. Hopefully it rains a little. I'm gonna, safe race, but give us that little bit of a little bit
Maybe
of
one
fun when
stint.
it comes. Yeah, give me one stint under the rain. Have some people, try different tires. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, we'll have you covered. Burnout Sports, Burnout Bets. Luke will have you covered all weekend. I'll be out there. So glad we're credentialed for the 500. Can't wait for the month of May. And just really covering, Luke. Really, what we love to do is just hang out and cover the sport and give our opinions. So I know you're looking forward to that. Can't wait for it. We'll see you guys all at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend and over the next 10 or so days. For Jared Sparkman and Luke Edwards, I'm Tony Donahue. Thanks for watching another edition of the IndyCar Show here, BurnoutSports.com.